Hi, Secret. I'm here again doing your natal chart reading, and I'm very excited to do this for you as well as the Find the Right Person reading that I just did. So in your natal chart, what I'm giving you here is what I call just the standard natal chart reading. We're going to discuss your sun, moon, and rising. We're going to discuss the elements and how they work together in your chart based on sun, moon, rising. We're going to look at your natal chart aspects, and we are going to just take a quick peek at Venus and Mars. So let me get started here, okay? I always like to start off with this beautiful excerpt from a book that I read. To you, Libra, I give the mission of service, that man may be mindful of his duties to others, that he may learn cooperation as well as the ability to reflect the other side of his actions. I will put you everywhere there is discord, and for your efforts, I will give you the gift of love. So let's talk about your sun, moon, and rising, okay? And then the elements. And I'm also going to pull up your birth chart here so that we can take a look. And the other thing that I like to do as well, we'll just leave it at that for the moment. Let me just get my papers organized here. So let's start with your sun is in Libra, your moon is in Aries, and your rising sign is Taurus, okay? And we're going to look quickly at Libra first. And I just like to give just a quick rundown, maybe, I don't know, approximately seven, eight characteristics of having let me get over to your chart here, of having your sun in Libra in the sixth house. So first off, I want to talk about the mantra of Libra, and that is I balance, we balance. Okay. So speaking of balance, it's really peace, harmony, and balance for me. I mean, I call it balance, but when I say it, that's what I'm thinking of. You need it, and you do your best to achieve it with friends and family. You do your best to achieve it between work and play. For you, it's all about the struggle of me time versus we time. Okay. And you have to balance in your work because your identity is tied up in your work and service with your sun in the sixth house. It's just the way it is. And some of the characteristics that you may find, or some of the quirks, we can call them anything, characteristics, your personality traits, your quirks, some of your shadow sides, whatever it may be. But you're a very hard worker and don't mind putting in the hours to prove it. You need to feel productive and like you're working to the best of your ability, or you tend to get down on yourself. Doing good work makes you feel confident and proud, but sometimes your standards are so high that you have a hard time living up to them. You are very sensitive to what other people think and say about your work, and you really take it to heart. The best type of profession for you would be one where you mostly work on your own and are able to express yourself freely. And I believe that's what you do. So that's kind of perfect for you. Okay. Then I want to get into relationships under this placement. You tend to come alive in relationships. You want everybody to be treated equally, fairly, respectfully, and with dignity. You are able to see all sides of a situation, but sometimes you compromise too much and make sacrifices you shouldn't, and this can make you indecisive at times. It is almost like you know what you need to do and should do, but that little keeping the peace mantra jumps up and starts, jumps up on your shoulder and starts riding around with you or stalking you. So sometimes you can find that a bit difficult. Creativity with Libra in this placement. You see art in ways that other people can't. And I'm not talking about art as in a painting on a wall. I'm talking about art in all art in general, okay? You love beauty and beautiful things around you. You are imaginative and a daydreamer, and you love to solve problems, okay? So there's your sun taken care of. Now let's talk about your moon in Aries. Okay. The moon is your emotional body. It's what feeds, nurtures you. It's your inner world, your sense of security, and where you will turn for security if you're feeling threatened. All right. And you have it in Aries. So let's see here. You are very impulsive, but you do use your instincts in situations because you trust your gut. You are known to have a short fuse and can quite easily pop your top off. That's a very standard Aries, moon and Aries thing. So it's not just you. Sometimes you can hold grudges, but in most cases, you just let them go and let things go and move on quickly because you really feel like you don't have the time or energy to waste on these things. There's so much for you to be seeing and doing that it's a waste of your time. You have fire and passion, and you're always on the move. You need to be doing something all the time, moving and shaking, learning, looking for the next best thing. If not, you get anxious and maybe even a little irritable. You have also been known for being impatient. You don't want things now. You wanted them 2 weeks ago. So, there's a lesson of patience in here for you. You're not fond of those who smother you or don't give you your space because you need a certain amount of independent me time every day. You do. You don't want to be tied down, and this can sometimes cause a problem in your relationships. Because you like relationships, but you don't like this part of it so much, that being tied down, that being smothered maybe, not getting enough me time, okay? You also need people in your life that can keep up with you, provide both emotional and mental stimulation for you. You need to get active when you're feeling stressed out. So my suggestion is with that fire, that fiery energy in Mars, or of Mars, physical movement. It helps you to calm down. So anything, walking, running, dancing, swimming, yoga, anything that gets you out and gets you moving. All right. Next, I'm going to move on to your rising sign or the ascendant, which is when you're looking at the chart here. You hear people talk about ascendant. You hear people talk about rising sign, and you may have thought, well, where is that? What is it? Is it a planet? Not a planet. It's the position that your sun was at or rising at on the horizon at the moment of your birth. That's why birth time is so important to us, to know your rising sign, because it's one of your big three. It's sun, moon, and rising. And yours is in Taurus. So if you're looking straight at the chart here, you see on the left-hand side that AC, that's your rising area, okay? And yours is in Taurus. So that would be I have. You are the mantra. You are definitely a person who's stable, practical, and reliable. You take your time and you don't like to be rushed, especially when around other people or in public. You are a sensual person, and indulging in your senses is a must. And when I say must, I mean capital M-U-S-T. You stand firm in your value system, what you believe in, your decisions, and your ideas, no matter how much other people try to push or influence you. You may be a bit stubborn. That kind of sounded a bit stubborn at times. The kind of person that cannot be pushed into anything you don't want. And you are the person that people come to or look to when everything else seems to be falling apart for them, or at least very unstable. Okay, now we're going to look at the elements. So as you can see, I put your sun in yellow, moon in red, and rising in green here next to the chart. And I did that to represent the elements. So the yellow is an air element, the red is a fire element, and the green is earth element, okay? So what we want to do now is kind of take a look at how do those elements work together in your chart, and it's very interesting. So first thing we're going to look at is air with earth. So it's your sun working with your sun in Libra working with rising in Taurus. Okay. You are the geniuses with incredible logic. The air thinks of an idea and the earth achieves it. Nothing can stop you. Also, with your immense logic and understanding, you can consciously bring yourself back into your emotional body. Okay. So sometimes when you get a little up there in your head, you can bring yourself back down into your emotional body. You basically just have to tell yourself, okay, we're getting a little carried away here. Let's ground it back down. I also want to talk though about the low road of air and earth. So what I just mentioned is when everything's working well. Low road of air and earth would be you have a complete disconnect from your emotions and feelings. It's like the air only hitting the trunk of the tree and not being able to penetrate to the core. Instead, it can only rustle the leaves. Okay. It is constantly being ruled by logic and mind, constantly thinking and never feeling. So another way to think of it is like the air hitting a dry, dusty ground. It's like a little, like a little sandstorm that's swirling, right? You can see the sand swirling in the air or whatever it may be, or the leaves or whatever debris on the ground. And it's very confusing. So what I always like to tell people about high road, low road, or light and shadow is that when you're feeling these low road or shadow feelings, stop yourself and realize I need to get up to where I'm thinking, I'm moving, I'm understanding things, I'm not confused, I'm letting the air get into my core, right? I am an idea machine and I am a communicator and nothing can stop me. All right. Next, we're going to talk about fire and air, or air and fire. So that is your sun in Libra and your moon in Aries. So high road, you are the Energizer bunny. Someone who goes and goes and goes, but you know when you have to consciously slow down and recharge. You are a bridge to other people. You're talking, you're networking, and you're bringing them together. The air gives the fire ideas and the fire runs with them. There is a lot of energy between them, right? Fire and air. So if you think of it like when you add air to a fire, it helps to get it going and keep it going. When using the energy correctly, you have a fire that is just the right size to keep you feeling warm and content. It's evenly fueled. On the low side of that, you go and go and go until you burn out. You injure yourself or until something outside of you of your control forces you to slow down because you only know one speed and that's fast. It can also show up by you're talking about nothing all the time. You're not connecting your head and your heart. You're adding air to the fire or fuel to the fire, so to speak. You're making it combustible and explosive rather than keeping it just the right size. So even though fire and air work well together, I mean, they're extremely compatible. On the high road, they're in control in the right size. On the low road, they can rage out of control. Okay. And lastly, let's talk about fire and earth. Okay. So fire and earth, your moon in Aries, your rising in Taurus. Okay. Fire and earth. This combination on the high road is never ending flame. There is constantly enough wood in the forest to cut down to stoke the fire. It's like a marathon runner. Okay. You can run and run and run and run some more and not burn out, well, at least until the very end of the marathon. This is the energy of manifestation. So it's working together to manifest, right? The low road of fire and earth, you're constantly burning down and starting over after achieving nothing. You are stuck in the perfection and don't know how to balance the go with the slow. So again, when you're feeling that, know that you need to get yourself back up to this constant flame, right? The constant never-ending flame that just burns evenly. Okay, so that's it for the sun, moon, rising, and the elements air, fire, and earth. Okay, now, Secret, I want to talk about the aspects in your chart. We call them the natal chart aspects, and that is going to be talking about how all the different planets in your chart and the signs that they're in and the houses that they're in, how are they all communicating with one another? How are they set up that, and I guess in a way that makes you you? Okay, so I want to go through the aspects, and if we actually look, oh, and I have here too, with special guest, the Grand Trine, because sometimes people have special aspects in their chart, not everyone, and this particular one, the Grand Trine with a kite, is rare. So it's kind of interesting. I'm going to do that at the end. So I'm just going to start with the regular aspects right now, and tell you how they're all working together. So you have your sun conjunct Pluto, okay? What does this mean? You have an obsessive personality. When something gets your attention, it's all that matters, especially if you don't have all the facts. That's the Pluto coming in, right? The ruler of Scorpio. And if you don't have all the facts, you're going to want to dig down deep below the surface to find them with that Pluto. You are going to feel a need to transform your life in some way. And because this is in your natal chart, it's going to probably be many times throughout your life. However, there's a however to this. You need to learn to let go sometimes. Let go of the need for transformation that's not going to serve your highest good, because you will never feel satisfied, and the constant transformation will end up hurting you and your life greatly in the end. So what you want to do here with this Pluto working with your sun is identify absolutely in the change that needs to happen, the transformation that needs to happen, but only when it's to serve your highest good, not just because you're feeling like, oh, I need to change. Okay. Next, we have sun sextiling Neptune. So this tells me you're a sweet, sensitive, artistic, compassionate, and spiritual person, and that you have a love for animals, okay? You love to help other people, but the key here is to find balance between helping others without completely sacrificing yourself. So you have to be careful of that, okay? Because, I mean, there's nothing better and nothing that makes a person feel good, right? Your ego, your sun, than helping other people. You are doing it for the right reason. You're not doing it because of your ego, but you have to be careful that you don't completely sacrifice yourself while doing it. Okay, then we have sun sextile Saturn. Now, this is telling me that you want to be respected. You work hard and believe that you can accomplish whatever it is that you set your mind to. You are patient and take your time with important matters and can be somewhat cautious when dealing with important things. You have little patience and do not want to be around or deal with people who act inappropriately. Okay, so it's a mix. You have patience for some things, no patience for others. Okay, when it comes to something that's important, an important matter, an important situation to you, you have patience to really see it through and deal with it for as long as it needs to be dealt with. But you don't really have time or patience to be around people who just, are acting all a fool. All right. Sun opposite moon. And this means usually you're a full moon baby when the sun's opposite the moon, okay? You have a constant internal, not external, but internal struggle between what you want and what you need. This can be about your life in general or about everyday decisions. It is what a lot of times causes indecisiveness. Okay. It is like you're being pulled in different directions at the same time. Sometimes it's hard to focus your energy. You're up one minute, you're down the next. However, you are very driven. And if you can focus that energy, it will make you very successful. And one of the things about this that it says is that you also may have had issues with your parents being too demanding or wanting different things from you growing up. So I can actually relate to this and just give you a little bit of insight. I always say it's like having the devil and an angel on your shoulder. You know what you should be doing. You know what you want to be doing, and they're conflicting, or you know what you really need, and you know what you really want, and they're conflicting. So it explains a lot. It explains a lot when you have sun opposite your moon. Next, we have Venus square your Saturn. So you may have a hard time expressing your love for people, especially if there's something standing in the way. You are going to have to confront what it is first before you're able to open yourself up and express it. You may find that as you get older, this becomes a little bit easier because you lighten up a little. But it's that Saturn, right? It's kind of that sternness with Venus. So it's like, if there's something wrong, you need to deal with what's wrong before you can express your love for something. That's what Saturn is saying here. All right, next we have Jupiter conjunct your rising sign. Okay, this doesn't show up on the chart. This is just something that we know to look for. So you are generous and kind and empathetic. People are drawn to you and tend to like you and are inspired by you. Okay. But the downside to Jupiter sometimes is, because Jupiter gets big and grand. So you have to remember you're not always the smartest person in the room, and you don't have to prove it to anyone, because nobody likes people that act too big for their britches, so to speak. With Jupiter conjunct your rising, you are optimistic, you are ambitious and confident, especially when it comes to being successful. You don't do anything in moderation, and you do it with a sense of, I am going to succeed. Again, sometimes you have to be careful, because with Jupiter being big and grand, and with that confidence, which is a good thing, which is a very good thing, you just have to be careful that you don't bite off more than you can chew, or make promises that can't quite be delivered. Okay. And then the last one here is just a word of caution with this placement, to keep things private and close to your chest, especially in the creativity department. Jupiter here loves to share, and loves to share big ideas, because Jupiter's big and expanding. It loves to see the big picture. But why it's saying to be cautious and keep things private is because, have you ever noticed that sometimes your competition in life, so to speak, beats you to the punch with that idea? So that is something about Jupiter that we have to be careful of, right? We love to share. I have that on my chart too, so I understand that. We love to share, but sometimes we can't share everything. We have to keep some things private until the time is right. Okay, now the last thing that I want to talk about here is your Grand Trine and Kite and Fire. So if you look at the chart here, you can see that you have in blue, what looks like a kite, right? Kind of a triangle with a little triangle on the tail of it. That is your Grand Trine and Kite in Fire. And the reason I'm saying in fire is because the points of that Grand Trine are in fire signs: Aries, Leo, and Sag. Okay. And the kite actually is there because you have a planet opposing one of the points of the Grand Trine. So that's what makes it a Grand Trine and a Kite. And that is going to be a focal point. And that focal point for you is Pluto. And we will talk about that a bit. So what I want to give you here, Secret, is kind of an insight to what a Grand Trine is. And without getting into a lot of detail, because it's astrology and you can go down the rabbit hole, it's basically, it's number one, it's rare. Okay, not everyone has this. I don't know the percentage of people, but it's, you know, it's not in everyone's chart. I think of all the charts I've done, I'm going to say it's in less than 50% of the charts that I've done for sure. Anyway, it is believed to be the purest expression of the element that it's in. And in this case, it's fire. Okay. And what the trines are actually aspects in your chart. So we just got done talking about the other aspects, but I saved this one because it's kind of a grand aspect, so to speak. And trines are harmonious and effortless gifts, right? They're in the same element. So they're in the element of fire. They're kind of, you know, they work well together. So much so that sometimes you might not even realize that you have that gift of whatever it may be. And as I go through them, I'll explain that to you. You might not even be aware of it. And, you know, people who've never had a natal chart reading would definitely not be aware of it. And even people who have had a natal chart reading still can kind of fall back on, you know what? Well, that's just, yeah, that's an effortless gift. That's easy for me. I don't have to do anything with it. Why would I have to work on that? And the reason you do, or the goal is so that you can use this energy in creative self-expression and spiritual self-improvement and to help other people. Okay, so you're going to be helping yourself with it. There's going to be self-help there by activating it and improving upon those already effortless gifts. And you're going to help other people with it as well. So what I want to get into first is the actual Grand Trine, just an overview of what it is in fire. Okay. So you are a person who would tend to be constantly busy with one activity or another. That's very fire. You are likely to overextend yourself during this hustle and bustle. Again, we've talked about that. You want to do it consciously, though, and slow yourself down and recharge when you need to. Okay. You may have a very strong sense of self-confidence and will tend to aspire for the highest possible. Okay. You can be very outgoing and perhaps a bit dramatic. Look, that happens, we know, in Leo sometimes. Well, or Aries or Sag. It can be a bit dramatic, but in a good way. Okay, so those are just some of the things of the fire element and what having a Grand Trine in there means. Now I want to actually look at the individual ones. First off, we have the Moon and Saturn. So what are the gifts here? You can easily hold yourself back emotionally, but without holding yourself back too much. You don't waver when you're stressed. You are patient, responsible, and you take a practical approach to things. You always think about how your decisions will impact you and everyone else. Therefore, you always try to make the best decisions possible. So for me, you know, maybe you do all of these things easily and you're aware of it. Maybe you're like, oh, geez, I never thought about it. But yeah, I am pretty solid and steady and don't waver when I'm stressed out. Or, yeah, I really can hold my emotions back in a situation, but without holding them back too much. Or, yeah, I always think of another person when I make a decision. So now you're aware of these things. Now you want to amp them up. Now you want to be using them. You want to use them to help yourself in situations. You want to use them to help other people in situations. And I don't know, the first thing, I mean, you know, I like to use my intuition a little bit. I mean, a chart is a chart. And for me, there's, you don't read it intuitively. It is what it is. But the first thing that popped into my mind here was 911 operator. Like that, you would be perfect for that, or I don't know, something like that, based on this particular trine in your chart. Okay. But you kind of get my idea where this is your calm, cool, and collective, right? We talked about that in the other video. This is your calm, cool, and collective right here. Okay. Next, we're going to look at the trine between Saturn and Neptune. So you're very capable of making your dreams a reality. You want to mix and combine your mystical and your spiritual in with your physical and make it something tangible. You are always able to maintain groundedness no matter how far into the spiritual and mystical and magical you go. You can pull yourself back out. And for me, I think this is something that you do now with being on YouTube. But also, maybe right now you feel you're not mixing enough of your mystical and spiritual in with your physical, or maybe you're not staying grounded, or maybe you're not able to pull yourself out so easily, or you can dream the dream, but when it comes to making it the reality, you fall short. Okay. So you see what I mean here. By you activating these and consciously working on them, you're helping yourself, right? You're helping yourself creatively, you're helping yourself spiritually, but you can also help others. And that's why I said you're doing that now with your YouTube channel, because I think you are mixing and combining your mystical and your spiritual with the physical for people to help them and give them advice. So that's how I would say you're working on that. Now, Neptune and the moon, you are full of compassion and you want to help others in any way you can. You always seem to know what other people are feeling. You need a certain amount of downtime away from everything at least once a day. And I learned this from a woman that, I've done a bit of studying from. And yeah, you need that downtime. You need that time to meditate, to connect back with nature, to ground, to be quiet with yourself, to calm your nervous system, whatever it may be, you need that time. Okay. You have excellent intuition and an active imagination. Okay. However, you have to learn discipline, as these energies can keep you stuck in the internal perfection of a dream, especially when it has to do with pursuing a goal. So remember up here, it said you're capable of making your dreams a reality. You are. And you're very capable of having an active imagination and intuition as to what it is that you want to make into a reality. Again, you just have to make sure you don't get stuck there. So, I see that in you now as well with your YouTube channel, say, right? You are full of compassion and you want to help people in any way you can. And you are. You're giving them advice. You're using your tool, your craft of reading tarot and oracle to help other people. And you're intuitive, of course, we know that. So yeah, again, these are just things that you can continue to work on to help yourself, right? Because if you can help yourself make those dreams a reality where you're not getting stuck in the perfection of them, then that's helping you. But it's also going to help other people, because I can almost guarantee that whatever those dreams are, it's going to involve other people anyway, just based on who you are. All right. And then we're going to take a quick look here at the kite. And the kite there on the end is actually sextiles and the opposition. Okay. And what do I want to tell you about the kite? Okay. So with that kite on the end, like I said, you may or may not have been aware of your gifts in the Grand Trine that we just spoke about. But with the kite there and that Pluto there, there's probably always been a sense for you or something nagging at you in the back of your mind, or it could even be knowing that you have to do more, right? That you have to do more for yourself, that you have to do more for other people. And that's what that kite's there doing. It's opposing that Pluto is opposing one of the points in the trine, and it's kind of making you aware of it. It's letting you know. And with Pluto, what do we know about Pluto? Transformation and change. There are things that you will have to transform and change in your life. We spoke about the aspects, right? The trine aspects to make this a reality. Okay. So that Pluto's there saying, come on, these are things you need to do. I don't want to give you a tower moment. I want you to work on these yourself. You know, this is me encouraging you to work on them yourself. Okay. So let's look at what they are as well. So we have Saturn and Pluto sextiling. So you always take responsibility for what it is that you do. You very much like the feeling of being in control in your life and your own fate. And you don't let obstacles get in your way. And when they do, you pretty much don't let them stop you. Okay? We have Pluto sextiling Neptune. And sextiles are like trines. They're not what we would maybe call an effortless gift. We would call them comfortable and harmonious. So with a trine, maybe you can just walk right through the door, easy peasy. A sextile, you can still walk through the door, pretty easy peasy, but you're going to have to turn the knob first. That's it. Just turn the knob and then you walk through. Okay. So Pluto and Neptune, you are a highly intuitive person. Again, you have an active imagination. When you follow your dreams and manifest them into reality, things go more smoothly for you. So you see, that's why they want you to use those trines. They want things to go more smoothly for you. So when you start using those energies, things will go more smoothly. And then we also have here the opposition with Pluto. So let's see. Have to be able to read my own writing now. This can mean that sometimes, no, not sometimes, any type of hurt is deep for you. You feel it deeply. Okay, with Pluto there, you're feeling it deeply. And it's opposing your moon, right? Your emotions. So that's why you're feeling it deeply as well, because it's the moon. You tend to fear being close to people because of the hurt that it could possibly bring to you. And for that reason, you might find yourself pulling away or wanting to stay away. But remember, you love relationship. So that's something for you to work on, working on that fear, you know, trying to get rid of that fear of hurt and intimacy. You have a powerful personality, and that is, I mean, look at the fire, right? The fire is powerful energy, and we're talking about Pluto here and your emotions. So you have a powerful personality, and you just need to know how to, going back to the elements, keep that fire under control. So that's what you're going to concentrate on there, keeping that powerful personality and fire under control. And sometimes with Pluto here, you can be a little intimidating or overly controlling. But again, if you're using that energy and keeping it controlled, there's nothing better than a powerful person. There's nothing better than a powerful woman. So that's where I think you have to keep your focus with that Pluto opposition. Okay, so it's kind of twofold. You have your trines you're going to work on, and then you have a little bit of personal self-work here as well. And I believe I did say in the beginning, right? There's your self-work and there's creative work. So I think you can see where that's going. So what I would suggest is just learn to control your emotions and use them productively, right? Remove the fear of being hurt by whatever it may be, even if it's not relationship, but more than likely that's what it's going to be. Just remove the controlling and intimidating characteristics of Pluto. Or maybe not remove them, sorry, transform them into constructive characteristics of control. Not so much intimidation, but you can still intimidate nicely. Look, I don't want to, nothing ever should be negative in your chart. It should always be about how you can better yourself. And when we talk about the more difficult planets like Saturn and Pluto and sometimes Uranus, it tends to be the things that we don't like to talk about because it involves change, learning lessons, and disruption of some sort. But that's what we're here for. That's what we came for, and that's what we came to learn. So I hope that I explained that well enough for you. It's different when I don't have your feedback right in the moment, like to talk about it. But again, if you have any questions at all, you know how to get a hold of me. And I really hope you enjoyed that. And I appreciate your time, Secret. And I hope that this has been another enlightening experience for you. And like I said, if anything needs to be clarified, just certainly get a hold of me. I will be able to answer anything that you need to know. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.